right, everybody. Culture Punch Podcast episode. I believe this is 70. You guys know what it is. So we're just going to jump into it and get started. First and foremost, I want to make sure everyone out there is doing all right. It's okay. Relax. If you don't know what I'm talking about, good. Stay innocent as long as you can. Okay? And everyone else, you know 2020 hasn't been fun. Okay, so the 2020 election has been crazy. 2020, really, when you look at big picture, but we don't go down that rabbit hole because what am I trying to say? 2020 as a whole has been crazy. And when you look at it big picture, everything's been crazy, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. That's what I meant to say. I want to focus on something specific. November 3rd came and it went. So whether you were happy with the results or lack thereof, we still do not have any president. We don't have a president. Biden believes they've done enough to win. Meanwhile, Trump's cabinet has already come out and said that they're going to fight it. They have actually filed a couple lawsuits, and we'll get to that. But they wanted to take it as far as the U.S. Supreme Court. And for those of you hearing this, you might think to yourself, okay, well, that makes sense. Or assume that that's the route to take. It's wrong, but I don't blame you. It would be smart on Trump's part to attempt to take it to the U.S. Supreme Court. And I'm sure he feels that is his best way to turn the votes or audit the votes or whatever. And, this might be news propaganda, but what they're reporting, CNN, Fox News, is that it would need to go to the state's Supreme Court since it's an issue with how the state is or how they did already count those votes. So when you look at it state by state, it makes sense. But if by the time this podcast is released, Trump has lost, then he already filed lawsuits against the state of Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, and now it's being reported that the GOP is filing a lawsuit against Nevada, and they're waiting on Arizona. But back when this happened in 2000 with Bush Jr. and Al Gore, in order to keep to the point and on track, the Bush administration focused on Florida alone. And let me give you a little bit of backstory. The reason this is relevant and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this happened in 2000 where Al Gore thought he won. Bush and his cabinet or his administration, I'm not sure if they filed a lawsuit, but I know they contested the votes. So, and by contested, they focused strictly on Florida. I'm going to get to why. The reason being, as I stated before, they can argue one major point in a battleground state, so to say, as opposed to arguing different points in different states and leave yourself more exposed and even more likely to lose the cases in presidency. So my point is focusing on the one major state worked for Bush because instead of going in all those states and having different points to talk about, they focused on the one major one, which Florida would have given them the presidency. So they focused on that state, they focused on that point, and they turned it. They flipped it. They flipped the votes. And the rest is history. As you know, Bush won. But will Trump's campaign take the same approach? As it stands, not likely. They're going after multiple states, and being that there are mail-in ballots and absentee ballots this year makes it that much more complicated in the eyes of Trump, more open to corruption, which I don't necessarily disagree. I'm pretty sure I've gone on record saying that initially I thought there was no way you could cheat when it comes to mail-in ballots. But the more time went on and the more I thought about it, the more I started to realize, that is not the case. It is probably very easy to be able to cheat with mail-in ballots, and being reported as of right now, because I'm watching the news as I'm doing this podcast, and I mentioned the whole Nevada thing. Nevada being that they're looking to file a lawsuit. The GOP is looking to file a lawsuit against Nevada. And the reason is because apparently they believe that there are people who, quote unquote, voted that left the state. Around, I think they gave a number. And it wasn't a very big number, but it would be a significant enough number to overturn some votes. I think it was about 2,200, maybe a little more. And for those of you that are keeping track, Biden was leading by about 3,000 votes. And then it's going up. But as of right now, that's what they believe is illegal. It's about 2,200 plus votes. That can go up. That number can go up. They are now in Arizona claiming that they have won the state, and they are one of the GOP representatives in Arizona was pleading to Fox News to remove, because for those of you that don't know, Trump has continuously called every other news outlet fake news except for Fox News. And Fox News has been very Republican and Trump biased, I get. Yeah, because they favor Trump. So they're the ones that are, Trump likes that outlet, and they favor Trump. As opposed to the other ones, they seem to favor the Democrats, not necessarily Joe Biden, but just the Democrats in general. So when you look at that, that is the reason why I was watching Fox News. So for the fact that Fox News is the one that has actually given the state of Arizona to Biden is crazy, because not even CNN has done that. CNN refuses to give it because they're still counting ballots. And the one news outlet that Trump relied on is the one that actually gave it to Arizona, and now they're pleading with Fox saying, remove that and redo that, or rescind that, rescind that, and say that the state is still open. Don't give that to Joe. Ironic. The irony. I don't know where this goes moving forward. It's still a toss-up for whoever's listening to this podcast, whenever you're listening to this podcast. It truly is a toss-up. No one knows what's going to happen. I mean, we are currently, as I'm recording this podcast, this is November 5th. Going on to November 6th because it's late. And we are still in the position where we don't have a president. Fox News has it 264 to 214. And for those of you that aren't aware, 270 the Electoral College votes gets the presidency. So Biden is 6 away. Nevada electoral votes, guess how many? 6. So if he wins Nevada, that's why they're battling so hard over there. He will win the presidency. And he's even closed the gap on Georgia. At one point, midnight of election day, November 3rd, or going on to November 4th, Trump was up by 300,000 votes, almost 300,000 in the state of Georgia. And now he's only up about 12 or 1,300. Or I'm sorry, 1,100. 1,100 votes, because they're still counting. But I believe it's Georgia that's about 99% of the votes counted. So that one looks more so as though it's going to stick with President Trump. Here's the kicker. President Trump claimed that any votes that were being counted after the polls have closed are illegal and should not be counted, should stop being counted. And mainly targeted the states that he's winning, like Georgia, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and the states that he's losing, like where he was losing in Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona. He wanted to continue the tally. He wanted to continue counting. You can't do that. Not even as president, you can't do that. And the media has been saying, because he's been coming out and saying, look, we're going to crawl back, or they're trying to steal the election. And I know so many people that hang on every single word that the president says and takes it for facts or takes it for truth. I mean, it might be the president's truth, but is it overall the truth? No. If every media outlet's saying the same thing, we're not being naive here, okay? For people out there are thinking that we're being naive. If they're saying all the same thing, how can you contest that? Like, seriously, how can you, especially Fox News, the one that had your back, you love them. And they're the ones that are giving the states that you don't want back. Here we go. We got the numbers. Georgia, he's up. Donald Trump is up 1,775. Nevada, Biden is up 11,438. North Carolina, Trump is up 76,701. And Pennsylvania, he's up 24,294. Georgia would count for 16 electoral points or votes. Nevada would count for 6, North Carolina for 15, and Pennsylvania for 20. Bush, Gore, 2020 current parallels with 2000 presidencies, what they're comparing on Fox News, which is exactly what I've been telling you guys. I've been telling you guys that this has happened before, and this has a similarity to what happened in 2000 with President Bush and Democratic candidate Al Gore. What would the world have looked like if that would have happened, if Al Gore would have became president? I don't know. Would we have gone to war? I don't know. Probably. A lot of that probably wouldn't have changed. But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I want to stay focused on what is going on. As I mentioned earlier, I'm watching the debates on through Fox News, and there's still no movement. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get into where we talk about what can happen with both sides. Okay, here's what I've heard. I don't know if it's any secret to any of you out there. Maybe it is. I am a Christian, and so for those of you that might, judge that and stuff, I know you've heard this podcast, so you've probably heard me cuss and things like that. I'm not perfect, but I consider myself a Christian. And what I've seen from some of these pastors, specifically Steve Cioccolanti, what he was saying is that he proclaimed that Trump would win, and he proclaimed that after winning, Pence would win 8 years after Trump. I'm sorry, not 8 years after. He would be the next president and be in office for 8 years, which would lead us into 2032. 2032 being 2,000 years or 2 millenniums after the, I guess you can say, the anniversary or the of Jesus Christ, when he pretty much showed himself to the world. And so he said that there was going to be some parallels to what happened then, and obviously what Jeremiah says pretty much what's happened before is going to happen again. And so they compared a lot to that, and he believes that was going to happen. He proclaimed it. He proclaimed that Trump was going to win. This was overnight, November 3rd to November 4th, so they were still kind of going back and forth, but they obviously Biden didn't have as big of a lead as he did, and he proclaimed it. He wanted it to be known. And then on the other side, you hear that, well, actually, I'm going to stay with President Trump. People are so sure President Trump is going. I didn't release a podcast. I recorded it and didn't release it, but I also said I believe President Trump is going to win. Now, the reason why I say not be naive, because from a Christian standpoint, could there really be any truth to what President Trump is saying? Are the Democrats trying to steal the election? Are they really all on the same page when it comes to removing him because of his faith? I mean, could be. The world is going to go against Christian and turn their backs on him, things like that. Could be. Does it feel like that? I mean, not really. Because I always assumed that the Christian man was going to be someone who truly wore their faith on their sleeve, kind of like Pence. Pence reminds me of that guy who's, who is no secret. And I think if anything like that was going to happen to a president, it would probably be Mike Pence. Not saying that he's president, but I'm saying that would probably be it, I would assume. So is there voter fraud? Is it that hard to believe that the country is just tired and wants change? Is that so hard to believe? People will ride so hard for President Trump, so hard. And people forget the things that he promised in 2016 and did not deliver on. We're going to build a wall, didn't finish it. We're going to put Hillary Clinton in jail, didn't do that. Instead, separated families at the border. I don't necessarily agree with catch and release, right? I'm torn in the middle between catch and release. Let me tell you why. Do I believe it's probably more beneficial to catch and release? Yeah, probably. I think you run their background. If they have no, if they're not criminals or anything, what's the harm in catch and release? Now, do you necessarily maybe just change it to where you catch, release them back to their side of the border or back on the side of Mexico, even if they're from South America? Because the whole argument is, are they going to return? Are they going to come back 6 months, a year, whatever, when their court case is, when they have their date in court? When they have their day in court, they're going to come back. Instead, statistics show that they don't come back, right? Okay. So you're against it. Well, maybe just release them on the other side so that way you're not separating them from their families. Because this is where we are. I don't know. I just feel like the country's so divided. And my fear with the Democrats is that because it's so liberal, so socialist, they progress in a direction that cannot be reverted and cannot be changed. Once you implement something as law, you can't change that. Remember that. And I'm not taking a shot, but I'm just giving you an example. If you had a very Christian president go into office and try to remove gay marriage, you think that the country, the citizens, Democrats, liberal, you think they would stand for that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that's just one example. If weed gets legalized, there's no way they go back on weed. No absolute way they go back on weed. It's another example for you. If abortion gets legalized, if late-term abortion gets legalized, there's no way you go back to that. And I normally don't talk about this subject, but I'll tell you this. Being a man of faith, I believe that God doesn't make mistakes. Even when bad happens, because everyone's always quick to say, well, whoa, you think this was God's plan for this many people to die and this and that? Yes, I do. But when it comes to this, and this is an example that I gave my barber, I said, because we were talking about abortion today. And he was like, I told him I'm torn. Alyssa and I are both torn on this because it's like, what if the mom is going to die? It's a fact that she won't survive the birth. As human, it's in human nature to want to survive. So is that an option for late-term abortion? Maybe. I mean, there's a case there. You can fight that. And then my barber said, well, what if they get raped? That's where I stand, he said. And I said, I've thought about that too. And I've kind of tossed back up with that too. I told him, I said, at first I was like, yeah, if they get raped and want the baby, they should be able to abort it. But then I was like, you know what? Hold on. Let me take a step back. Again, I don't believe God makes mistakes. And by no means am I saying that anyone who gets raped, females especially, are they asking for it? That's not what I'm saying. So let me clarify that. In this example that I'm going to give, I want to be clear that that's not what I'm saying. But let's say that you have a female that is living her best life, partying, doing this and that. She can easily get caught up in the wrong crowd. And there's a lot of shady ass people out there. A lot of people who are two-faced that you feel they would, maybe you think you could trust them and then you can't. And there's also a lot of guys out there, because girls, you know what I'm talking about. You guys can easily be teasers. That's a thing. And there's guys out there that won't stand for that. Now, I'm not saying that that's right, but let's just go with this example. And the example is that you're just out there, you're partying, you're doing all this and you're living it up. And when I say party, I'm talking about drugs, alcohol, everything. And then let's say you get raped. I can see initially you being upset with what happened and wanting to abort the baby because it reminds you of that incident that happened. I understand that. But then here's where I'm kind of like torn, because I believe that God doesn't make mistakes. I tell myself, what if this was God's way of telling this female, you need to, how do I put this? For a lot of us out there, whenever we have kids, it changes our whole mentality, our mind state. It changes our aura, our essence, everything. Everything about us, besides what makes us like our morals, everything about us, most people, it changes. Like I wanted to hustle more for my kids. I wanted to provide them with everything. I wanted to be the best that I could for them. I wanted to be the best I could for my family. Everything. I just had this different drive, this different energy. And I wanted to obviously do all good, no bad. Now, again, going off of that example, a girl's living her best life. She's caught up in the wrong kind of lifestyle. She has a kid, falls in love with this kid, adores this kid, to where all she wants to do is her whole world becomes this kid. So no more is she entangled in that lifestyle of partying, drugs, alcohol, shady people. She turns from that because of this child. And for a lot of people, that extreme act or action might be what it takes. Realistically, be honest, before you start going crazy out there, be honest, that might be what it takes for someone to change and turn things around. Just like for a lot of people, they need to come to a near-death experience, or they need to go to jail or prison or whatever for change. This might be like the last warning sign before shit really hits the fan. And a girl gets raped, doesn't want to have the baby because it reminds her of that instance, can't have the abortion, has the baby, ends up loving the baby, turns from that life, becomes a phenomenal mom. A good example for her child. Was that a mistake? I don't think so. Was that God maybe sending a message? Maybe. So you see what I'm saying? That is why I'm torn. That's why it's hard for me to look at it and say, you know what? I think this is what it is. And it's not going to, it needs to be done this way. It needs to be done that way. It's hard. So I really am torn by it. But my example, maybe it was a good one. Maybe it wasn't. My point is that once you make that decision to either allow late-term abortions, you can't go back. And I think we really got to be smart with what we're doing. And I think currently you have a lot of Democrats, and you look at the example that Joe Biden has and then Kamala, you have two people who are very, very left, very liberal. So those changes are going to come and they're going to be erratic. They're going to be quick. And I'm not saying that I'm not for any of these changes. What I'm saying is that I'm cautious because I feel like that's when they slip in things that we don't know about. And what I mean is, let's say they legalize weed, they legalize late-term abortion. They're giving people what they've been protesting, what they want. They reform the police force and somehow find a way to amend the things that have happened within the Black community. Everyone's happy. Oh, these are the saviors, everything. Meanwhile, in the background, they're figuring out ways to sneak this in and sneak that in. And it might be spying on us even more, introducing this or introducing that. I mean, they've already said that they want to shut it down. Imagine if they shut it down. And then to reopen as a business or as an employee, whatever, you have to get some kind of injection or shot, or it's just it teeters on conspiracy, and it teeters on them being able to sneak nano shit into your system because you've been so happy with the progress that they've made, what you've asked for, they've given you. Now they're asking you to do something. Of course you're going to abide or oblige or whatever. You're going to listen because you're seeing, oh, they're working for me, the people. I don't know. So that's kind of what freaks me out, because realistically, these are all worries. Everyone's worried. Everyone right now is worried. That's why I said relax. A lot of things can happen, but just have faith that this country is going to prevail and move forward the way it always has. For those of you that don't believe in the Bible, I'm sure you believe that if you do good things will happen to you. Just continue to live by that motto. I can't change your faith, and I can't change how you look at things. But if you live a good lifestyle, I believe that good things probably will happen for you. So if you're okay with that, then that's your life. I'm sure you've been told that if you don't accept Jesus and you're not doing godly things, that you won't enter the kingdom of heaven, things like that. I'm not here to tell you that. I'm sure you've heard that. Whether you believe it or not, it's your prerogative. But if you're not doing all these good things, or there's racism in your heart, there's hate in your heart, and there's this and there's that and there's this, that's when the world starts to crumble. And that's the example that's been going on in 2020, not just the whole COVID stuff, but like everything that's happened, everything that's going on. And it's just so much, and there's no control. It's like, how do we get it back? And that's where my stance is. My stance is, realistically, it could be Biden, it could be Trump. I just want the Senate and the House to be able to come together and work together again, so the citizens don't suffer, the people who live in this country don't suffer, and the rebuild can start, the healing can start. We're divided. This whole country's divided. And is that President Trump's fault? I think it is, but not for the reasons that most of you believe. He stuck to his guns when it comes to a Republican, and it came to some law stuff, and I think that pissed off a lot of people. And at the same time, the other half of that is Trump being Trump, just being a hard ass, because he's an entrepreneur. So he has that kind of hustle, that don't take shit from nobody because I know how to make my money. I know how to advance in this life. Has that mentality, and comes across to people as arrogant, comes across to people as a dick or whatever. And so people don't want to work with him. It's just how he is. That's why he's been so successful. He has been bankrupt so many times, but he's also had success. And that is why. It's all mind state. And he knows how to walk that line, knows how to live that life. So a lot of people don't want to work with him. And because of him being who he is, shit can't get done. Those are just facts. So that's why I say, yeah, I do believe that because of who is currently in the White House, things aren't getting done. And that's only because I don't know what it'd be like if there was a Democrat in there. And now we have an opportunity to see what that might look like. And the Republicans aren't ready to concede. They're not ready to give that up and say, yes, that's okay. We agree. We're going to do it or whatever. They're not ready. And it's sad. It really is sad because, again, this country's suffering. This country's divided. And instead of coming together, they're playing his speech again. They're winning the key locations. And see, that's hard, man, because you're just creating more division. It's things like that. The people that hang on everything that the president says. Those, the radical right or whatever. People who I don't even know what it is. But those are the kind of people that it's hard. I don't know. Just, you have to have a filter, especially as president. And when you don't have one, you create division. And that's what we're seeing. And to come out and say that you were winning and then there's fake votes and there's this, there's that, you're only causing more of an uproar. I don't know what your end goal is here. I'm sure you want to stay in the White House, but let me ask you this. If you lose, if they recount, they do everything, you go through the motion and you lose, it was all for nothing. And the country is worse than what it was before the election. People were enthusiastic and ready to see if there was a change that was going to happen. And instead we got this, a little bit of the same crap on top of new crap that is piling onto the division and the segregation of just the citizens, the people, the communities, the states, everything. It sucks. It sucks to be in the position that we're in. It truly does. I don't know. Truly, it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible place to be. Just uncertainty, but also seeing that, oh, you know what? Yeah, they're claiming this and they're claiming that. And you're just dividing the people, man. Like, come on. Why? Why are you doing that? Just say we're going to do a lawsuit and then that's it. and then it just looks like you're what is it? Whining or complaining like a child would. And then you go to the moment and you're right, bam, you can say you're right. And then you weren't whining like a child. But at least what I'm saying is that's the worst that someone can call you is a baby complaining. It's the worst. Not that you're segregating the country even more. You're dividing the nation even more by the thoughts and the things that you're saying and the tweets and everything. And that's true. You got to be cautious of that stuff because people right now are in a sensitive position. And the fact that they don't know who their president is, they thought November 3rd it was it. That's when they were going to find out who who their leader was and what they were going to do next. That day came and went and we're still with no president, no winner, no clear-cut winner. And people are scared, people are anxious, people are confused, people are just very, very vulnerable right now. And the last thing that people need is to have the incumbent president say that it's rigged, it's being hacked, it's this, it's that, we've won. You're creating more problems. Just go through the legal systems, make your one thing in saying that we don't believe that things have been counting right, the process wasn't done right. We are going to go ahead and fight this, and we will let you know with an update what happens. Instead of constantly you were calling governors of these states, you were having them and their representatives pretty much go on the news and fight your case and say this is a Republican state and blah, blah, blah. And clearly that's not the case right now. And I don't understand what that's going to do except create more division. And now you're not only creating division, you're making it hard for the governors of those states because now they have to deal with the division within their own state. Like Arizona, for example. Arizona being red and now it's possibly being flipped to blue. The fact that that is even happening is crazy it's crazy in its own. But now imagine the division you're going to have within that state. Now Tucson, which is Pima County, and Maricopa County, which is where Phoenix sits, those ones are fine because those are blue. But I mean, they're still counting. There's about 200,000 votes that they're counting from, or 235,000 votes alone that they're counting from Maricopa County. So things can change. But you have counties heading up towards Flagstaff where you have like Sedona, Casa Grande. What else is up there? Prescott and there's something else. Those are very red. So what kind of division are you going to create between those? You know what I mean? It's hard. Yuma, I can see why it's red. It's pretty close to the border and whatnot. And so I can understand that, but it's hard to imagine that you're doing this without purpose. And you start heading east of Tucson, you start heading towards New Mexico, and that's all red, of course, because Cruces and everything down north or south of New Mexico is red. Close to Texas, obviously red, but you got to understand the big counties are winning blue, and you got to remember that a lot of people migrated from California over to Phoenix. So the fact that that's blue is not a surprising thing, and the fact that they're looking for change. And if you've ever been to Phoenix, you would see that people just want to live their best life. They're happy. They just want to be happy. They're all about love each other, whatever. That's very hippie-like, you can say, but at the same time, it's very democratic, very liberal. So what do you expect? You're really expecting them to, and then Arizona, are you kidding me? It's a big college town, ASU. So you're going to have a mixture of a bunch of people, a bunch of kids from different parts of the state and whatnot. And you want to talk about youth that runs the city as far as the impact that they have. Of course, it's going to be blue. Everyone is seeing the messages and all they want to do is spread love, especially when all you've done your last year of presidency is just create division. Now, it was not your fault. Coronavirus, COVID-19 was not your fault. A lot of people argue with you about how you handle it. I think that's a bunch of bullshit too, because I think any president wouldn't have said anything. Honestly, that's what they do. You see movies where they don't tell the nation, oh, we shouldn't tell the nation because they'll panic. We'll wait for the right time. And you did the bans and everything, so we should have known something was going on. And then you released it. Boom. This is what's going on. In March, you released it. Now, I can see, I've said it before, I can see the Democratic side of that where they said you should have told the nation so that way they could stock up on their goods because people were struggling for water. People were struggling for toilet paper. I remember that. It was crazy. Apocalyptic-esque. But we prevailed just like anything else this nation's been through. We have come out of it. Now, I can't say we came out of it stronger because we've come out of it more confused and more divided and hurt and very, very, very vulnerable. And so it's time to have a leader that's going to lead this nation moving forward with people with trust. with ability to work with others, with communication, all of that. Is that the incumbent president right now, President Trump? I don't know. Didn't happen 4 years. And again, it's not his fault, just who he is. We all can't stand some of the things he says or does, but I mean, there's a reason why he holds the position that he holds. Smart guy. So I don't know. Oh man, it's hard. We're still nothing. Let me get the news back on and see if there's anything that's changed. I'm trying to keep everyone as updated as possible. Again, I'm watching it through Fox News. That might not be the best thing, but they're showing Pennsylvania GOP says Democrats unlawfully extended counting deadline. One more thing. For anyone that was paying attention to the election leading up to it, they specifically said there would be a 3-day grace period for counting votes. So this isn't news, but the fact that the president is losing in the states that he's losing in, he's making it out to seem as though there's something fishy going on with that. No, that was stated. Because of the mail-in ballots, because of the absentee ballots, there was going to be delays. We are day 2, right? Yes, we're day 2. That means Friday, tomorrow, we should have some answers. Unless they're with this recounting stuff and they go that, and obviously it's going to be delayed even longer. And for those of you guys that watch the Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, and Tim Dillon podcast, you'd know that Alex Jones kept talking about a 76 or 79 days of hell, what he called, which is from November 3rd or 4th to the day that they inaugurate the president in January is 79 days. And he called it 79 days of hell because he knew that, well, first of all, he assumed that the president would regain presidency and he would stay in office, and that the Democrats would not concede, as Hillary informed Joe Biden not to do. So that way, Joe Biden and the Democrats would then not concede, and they would, I don't know if they were going to file lawsuits, but I know they were going to fight it, and it was just going to be chaos. And then it goes back even further to where there was a lot of conspiracies that Nancy Pelosi was trying to somehow, scoot away into presidency. Well, now, for those of you that don't know, if they go through with this and the country indeed doesn't have a president, the next in line is Nancy Pelosi. So what will she do? Who knows? She's from California, for those of you that don't know, so she's very democratic. She has not been able to work with Trump and vice versa. They actually haven't even spoken, for those of you that might not know that. Everything has been done through his cabinet or his administration and communicating with her administration, and there has been no direct contact between the two. And I think that's on purpose. I think that she can't stand President Trump, and I think that he can't stand her for whatever reasons, right? So what does that vote for the country? What does that do for the country if she's in charge? What does it do for the psyche of both Democrat candidate and President Trump? What does it do? And who suffers? Like I've been saying this whole time, who suffers? We suffer, right? We suffer. There's no other way to put it. We suffer. That's what it is. They're saying about postmark. Hold on. They don't have confidence that their vote counts. And they're saying that has to be post-dated. Okay, all that stuff makes sense to me so far. You can't throw out there. So they're talking about throwing out. Right now they're just speculating. And again, for those of you that don't know or weren't here for previously, welcome back, or welcome to whatever part of this podcast you're tuning into. But I've been watching in on Fox News while discussing what's been going on and the things that they've been talking about. Now I'm switching over to CNN to see if there's any change on their end. Again, CNN has it 253 to 213. Where Fox News has actually already awarded Arizona to Biden, and has them at 264 to 213. And I believe they also gave the district they gave Alaska, so he should be at 214 actually. But I don't know. That's where we are. Very dangerous things that we're going through. Very dangerous tweets. Very dangerous speaking. Again, I think that it helps the fact that Biden's coming out saying we're not coming out here to say we've won it, but we feel like we've done enough to win this. And meanwhile, you have President Trump that's saying that they're still in the election and they're doing this and they're doing that. They shouldn't be counting. The votes are illegal. It's hard. It's hard, man. So I hope everyone stays safe. I hope everyone can continue to just spread love. Please, we're separate or segregated right now. We're divided right now, but this country needs healing, and hopefully we get that healing soon. This country needs a leader that will lead with the support and trust of citizens in both Republican and Democrat side, whoever it is. have the the trust of the opposing side. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I wanted to get into so much other things that under what was going on with Joe Biden and Barack Obama, like during their administration, just to kind of remind you guys of what I feel could happen leading forward. But this kind of election took over of what's been going on. So I want to go ahead and cut it there. I know you guys are probably watching live and it's not going to be so relevant whenever you guys do hear this. So I want to go ahead and cut this so it's not that long of a podcast. Just wanted to give you my thoughts, try to keep you guys up to date as much as I possibly could. And just the message is just continue to spread love, have faith, calm down, relax. It's okay. We're going to have a president soon. And regardless of the results or who wins or whatever, I think that we definitely need some change. So let's work on how we can work on ourselves in order to make change moving forward. And hopefully we can do something about, I don't know, hopefully we could just heal as a country moving forward. If you guys want to support the podcast, the best way to do it is just listen in. You can share it with your friends. You can go visit our Facebook and Instagram page at Culture Punch Podcast. This website, www.culturepunchpodcast.com. You can go check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Culture Punch Podcast. And then we're also on Twitter at Culture_Punch. Let us know your thoughts, your ideas. Let me know if everyone out there is okay. Let me know how long you've been following this podcast. Anything you want to reach out to me about, I am open to anything and I'll answer and respond back. So thank you. And I appreciate everyone who's been listening from day ones to people who are just tuning into this podcast for the very first time. I want to thank you guys, and everyone stay safe out there. God bless. And we'll talk to you guys again.